it's Christine Grace. Welcome back to my channel. So I recently did a video where I was just telling you guys how I got introduced to the red pill, and it got a lot of engagement. I saw you guys having conversations in the comment section, and I saw that it got a lot of traction. So I thought, why not come on and share some more of my thoughts with you guys, because I really enjoy conversation. I like hearing what you guys have to say because it inspires me to question things a bit more. It inspires me to dig a little deeper and strive for more answers and more truth in a world of insanity and lies. And obviously, if you've been following me a while, you know that that is my passion in life. What I enjoy doing is finding truth. So one thing that's been on my mind recently, and I've mentioned it quite a bit in some of my reaction videos, and that is, what actually is the point of feminism? So I know we spend a lot of time, debunking the lunacy of feminism. And we often hear a lot of commentators debunking, what feminism stands for. So I think we all know and agree that everything that feminism claims to stand for is just ridiculous, right? But my question is to the feminists, what do you want? Seriously, I genuinely want an actual answer. The answer that I often hear from feminists is, we want equality. Well, if you want equality, that means being treated the same as men, which means the whole Me Too movement would be void because, well, if women can't be coerced in the same way that men, by law, can't be coerced, then all of that would disappear. We want equality. Okay, well, if you hit a man, expect to get hit back. We want equality. Okay, well, in the family court systems, don't expect to instantly get custody of a child and instantly get the house, and in divorce courts, instantly get half of a man's wealth. We want equality. Go and work in the oil rigs. Go and be on the front line in the army. We want equality. What does that mean? What does it look like? Now, any of us with half a brain cell knows that true equality can never exist between the sexes because the sexes aren't equal. We are biologically separated, okay? Life is unequal for men as it is for women. It balances out. The two balance each other out. But men can't get pregnant. So they could argue, give us wombs, we want equality. But, they don't. But because men were given bigger hearts, bigger chests, and more testosterone, and overall more body mass, more strength, women are, we want equality. We want what you have. And even though you can't help it, we're going to blame you for the fact that we get periods. We're going to make that our struggle. It's your fault. It's your fault that this is how we're made. Do you see what I'm trying to get at here? There's no actual thing that they want. Because this is the way I see it. Patriarchy is a great thing, and it is good for society, and it is good for women. Patriarchy is what keeps the world in order. I've said this previously, it stops the world descending into chaos. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is that when women are in charge, awful things happen. What has happened in the wake of feminism? Kids are more depressed than they've ever been before. Why is that? Well, because women started encouraging everyone to talk about their feelings, which we know is not productive nor helpful to a man's mental health. That's beside the point. Why are our young women depressed? Well, because they're going out and having casual sex. They're having casual sexual relationships, and the data shows that the majority of these women regret those casual relationships, and it makes them feel bad about themselves. Men aren't approaching women anymore. We've got a divide between the sexes. Well, why is that? Because in the wake of feminism, men are scared to approach women because they don't want to get looked down upon. They don't want to get called a creep. Well, why would women do that? Because of feminism, women have now been told that to be sexually liberated, which basically just means to sleep around a bunch, is to be empowered. So now they're on all these dating apps, Tinder, Hinge, whatever, and they're just getting ran through because, well, the guys aren't going to complain about that, are they? There's girls everywhere who are willing to sleep with you without having to put a ring on her finger or pay. At least the whores are getting paid for it. You're doing it for free. Women aren't having children anymore. In the West, our species is literally dying out. So what I take from that is that when the patriarchy listens to women and takes women into account, things fall apart. The workplace used to be genuinely productive, and it was harsh. Listen, I'm a girl. The way men talk to each other is pretty brutal, but they got things done. There was no HR meetings. There was no tone policing. There was no, this is how you have to talk. This is what you have to say. This is why you can't speak like that. Things got done. And the community was looked after. You know, elders were taken care of. Children were taken care of. Strangers who might or might not abuse your children weren't being paid to look after your children so that you can go be a boss babe. Women can't see what's good for them, because this isn't it. I think most of us instinctively know now that this isn't it. Now, am I saying that we are to completely conform to, say, Iran's regime, you know, and how they view women in Afghanistan? No, that's not what I'm saying. But am I saying that the ideal, in my opinion, would be patriarchy? Yeah. Am I saying one vote for the home? Yeah, the husband's vote. Am I saying that women shouldn't have to work? Yeah. Am I saying that women shouldn't work whatsoever? No. Women have always worked. There's always been women who have needed to work. Sex workers are in fact workers. I don't like it, but they have their place, just like women do. And it's not where we are. Everything is falling apart. We had a place before, and that place was really defined quite well. The world revolved around us. I don't think many women understand that. The men who have been programmed, I've been looking recently into the idea of the disposable male and how male are basically bred and indoctrinated from birth to believe that their lives don't matter anywhere near as much as a female's life. You know, it's the women and children first. That then breaks down over generations into happy wife, happy life. It doesn't matter how you feel. You've got to do it to keep your wife happy. Now, there's some truth in that. Because when women are happy, you know, the men don't have to deal with our crap. But when the men are unhappy, they say nothing. And then some of them just disappear. That's important too. So I get the logic behind it. But I don't agree that that's how it should be. From the man's perspective, I get the logic of why happy wife, happy life came around. But I also think that women have a degree of responsibility for remaining stable. Now, I know, being a woman, we have these cycles that involve hormones that do fluctuate emotions. No doubt. But to use that as an excuse and to act like these hormones completely hijack your brain into turning you into an insufferable bitch isn't an excuse. And to gaslight the men into thinking that this is okay because, well, they just don't understand, that's not okay. I don't agree with any of that. Because the men really did so much for us. Our place was, we're going to go out to work. We're going to run society. We're going to make sure that the water is running. We're going to make sure that there is food in the shops because we're going to keep agriculture going. We're going to run everything so that you can be here and do what you want, essentially. Now, women have an expectation, just like the men have that expectation. They're expected to, as the disposable male archetype suggests, go to war and lay your life on the line for a woman. Women aren't expected to do that. But what they are expected to do, because no one is free from responsibility, the expectation on women is to look after the children, raise them well, keep the house clean and tidy, and make sure everyone is fed. Do your bit for the community. Nurture, care. Now, of course, not everyone's going to be doing that. There's going to be sex workers, and there's going to be some families that, you know, they've got a family business, and a woman is going to have her part in that, of course. Of course. But what the men have to do is always infinitely worse. Always. At every point in history, what men have had to do has always been worse. The burden has always been on them. So back when patriarchy was in full swing, you know, let's run it back maybe 80 to 100 years, women had their place. Women who didn't have to work, who purely just had to stick to their societal responsibilities, and during their free time, you know, you want to learn how to paint, teach yourself how to paint. You want to write a poem, do that. Sure, the men might not take you seriously, but the women might. And if you're married, like, why do you care about the approval of what another man thinks? Why do you care? Or is it that you don't want the women's approval because that doesn't mean anything to you? Because if we're all being honest for ourselves, like with ourselves, we do care what men think. Innately, we care what men think. Why? Because we know they can protect us. We know they're our lifeline. So what does feminism want? Because as far as I can see, women were superior. Women were the protected sex. We were sheltered. We were provided for. We were protected. Now, I'm speaking generally. I know there's exceptions to the rule that people want to blow up out of proportion and claim this is why we needed feminism. Which is bullshit, because those exceptions still exist now, post-feminism. What do you want? Because you were superior, and now we want equality. We want to go out and work too. Now you're in the workplace. Now what? Oh, I'm free. I'm independent. You live in a flat in London. You're slaving away, selling your soul all week, miserable. Some people love their job. Well aware of that. Most people don't. Most people do not love what they do. They might love telling people what they do. It might sound really cool. And hey, there might be moments in it where it's like, that's really, really cool, really fun job. And I get that. I really, really do. And I know, like, you know, on the flip side, motherhood is the same. There's going to be moments in motherhood where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so bored, or what am I doing? This is stressful. But the highs of that are you're literally raising the next generation. The highs of working in some corporate business, no one's going to remember you. No one's going to remember you. No one's going to care. You disappear. You're just a number in the system. So we fought for equality, which essentially just downgraded our position in society. We voted for the right to murder our children and to act like whores. But worse than whores, free whores. Equality for what? At what cost? I really do see it as like a self-destruct mission. I really do. Because where it's led is not good. And the fact that there are still feminists saying we need to fight the patriarchy, and the fact that they even think we still live in a patriarchy, which is absolutely absurd to me. What do you want? What does it actually look like? I don't want to hear these buzzwords. I don't want to hear we just want equality. I don't want to hear we want so that women can walk around and feel safe at night. There are always going to be bad men. In the same way a gazelle doesn't walk into a lion's den, there are always going to be bad men. There's also bad women. Believe me, my inbox is full of stories about them. I know what you're like. So, what do you want? What is the end goal? Because the only people I've actually, in my time on YouTube and investigating this, the only time I've actually ever seen women be honest, which I actually respect. I think it's awful, but I respect the honesty. Is at the inception of the National Organization for Women. If you haven't seen this already, you can go check it out on my shorts page. If you change the filter to popular, it's one of the top videos. And I think the reason that it got so much traction is because people were shocked. Now, just to give you a bit of context here, this was when I was, most of you know, I used to work with Pearl. And this is when I was working with her, and she was very kind as to let me host the show. I think I did it about twice. I was super nervous. But I just wanted to test the waters here. I felt like, you know, in my space on the internet, I'm talking with you guys know all of this stuff. You know, feminism is bad. But I really wanted to talk to people who were on the ground who weren't involved in this kind of content and see, like, do these people actually know? Like, when I say I'm a feminist, do you know what that means? Do you know what you're associating yourselves with? So obviously, I did some digging and I found out about Planned Parenthood and the history of Planned Parenthood, which is, if you don't know, a lady called Margaret Sanger, and she was like affiliated with a group of bad people that I probably can't say on YouTube, but like bad people. The word begins with an N, from the Second World War, Germans. She was affiliated with them, and she believed in eugenics, which is essentially like what that group of people believed in, which is like superior race, and we have a duty to exterminate the other. That is what Planned Parenthood came from. That's what all these feminists are fighting for, you know, the right to abortion. That's where the inception of it all came from. This lady said, and I quote, "The kindest thing you can do to a child is kill it," end quote. You can look this up. Just look up Margaret Sanger quotes. You will find some absolutely atrocious things there. One thing that I find really interesting is that one of her big things was to introduce abortion to the black population in order to reduce it. Now, last time I checked, the black population, black women, were one of the top, if not the top group of women receiving this healthcare. So it worked. It worked. People don't want to associate with that once they find out that, do they? And you know that people don't want to associate with that because Planned Parenthood themselves removed Margaret Sanger from their website when people started to discover this information. Now, furthermore, getting to the video, which again, you can go check out on Shorts, I discovered an eyewitness account from one of the inception meetings of the National Organization of Women. A lady named Mallory, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, Mallory was the sister of one of the leaders of this organization. And she just went along for the sake of seeing what was going on. She said, you know, they were all kind of a bit weird. They were all kind of outcasts. These were women who were not happy. They were deeply disturbed. The people who started this organization for women, one of the leading groups in second wave feminism, they were very unwell women, very bitter, very resentful. They were not married. They did not have children, and they were angry. Now, what I respect is that they actually had a plan. They actually knew what they wanted. They weren't just throwing around buzzwords. And if you go check out the short, you'll see the conversation, which went along the lines of something like this. What are we standing for? We are standing for the destruction of men, the destruction of patriarchy. We're standing for the destruction of the nuclear family. And they propose how they're going to do this. They had a whole plan. This is what I respect. At least these feminists knew what they stood for. They were explicit about it. What's the plan? Well, we're going to promote promiscuity. We're going to tell women it's good to be promiscuous, and we're going to promote homosexuality. Open your eyes. Look at the world. This all happened. What Margaret Sanger wanted with Planned Parenthood, it's all happening. Here in the UK, we've just passed a law for assisted dying. Abortion is now legal in the UK up until birth. It's all happening. These crazy women were allowed power, and now the world is crumbling. It's all happening. So now, the plan has succeeded. So when you ask women who are feminists, what do you want? The reason they can't give you an answer is because it's already happening. They're just still running off of the same programming. They can't give you an actual definitive answer. They can't give you, this is exactly explicitly illustrating, this is what we want. This is the goal. And they can't tell you how they're going to get there. Women destroy hierarchies, and patriarchy, as the name suggests, is a hierarchy. The world needs hierarchies. It's how nature works. The lion kills the gazelle. What's left of the gazelle gets eaten by, I don't know, whatever maggots and insects, eat that up and then give it back to the earth, and things continue. It's tough. Life is tough. But that's what it is. And you can't change that. Unless, of course, you know, we eventually merge with AI, and that's probably the direction we're headed anyway. And then cool, we can talk about equity. Everyone's equal because we're all bloody SIM cards plugged into a computer. But for now, as biological and spiritual beings, life is not fair, life is not equal. So what does equality look like? Do you want special treatment? In which case, you had that. Or do you want actual equality? I was thinking about this, guys, and I'm really intrigued to get your opinion. There is a movie that I have been advised to watch. One of my friends said it was really good. It was new out this year, and it's called Last Breath, and it's about guys that work on an oil rig. I'm thinking of watching it and then coming on here and giving a review. I've not done something like that before on the channel, so I'd be intrigued to know if you guys would be interested. But the reason I bring that up is because I know most women cannot comprehend just how hard it is to be a man. Can't understand. So to them, the men are just running around having fun, going out to work, and they're like, we want that. Because it's that whole perception of the grass is always greener. So women are sat at home, and in the mundane moments of, you know, child rearing and caretaking of the home, they're thinking it must be so much better being a man. But we have proof it's not. Because so many trans men, women who've become men, regret it because they say it's so much harder as a man. There was obviously that experiment. I think it's actually, I've been speaking about this a lot, and I had a look recently. I think it's the most popular video on my channel, and it is a reaction to the woman who pretended to be a man. And unfortunately, she ended up unaliving herself because it was that hard. So when women who are serious about this genuinely try life as a man, they unfortunately realize it is so hard. And that is what feminism is striving towards. It's striving towards the eradication of men and somehow a world of just women. It's completely delusional because obviously it's unsustainable. But this is, like I said, this was started by delusional people. It was started by mentally unwell women. We know that feminism is delusional. Feminists won't admit it, but you can see when talking to them that they don't have any answers either. I would be so intrigued if a feminist can actually give me a plan here. Tell me what's the end goal and how are you getting there? Because I've not heard it. Except for these second wave feminists at the National Organization for Women. I've not heard a plan. Except for Margaret Sanger coming up with why abortion should be introduced as healthcare to women. Anyone else, these modern day feminists, there's no plan. There's no goal. They are literally the fallout, the product of the prior feminists. So I guess another question is to you, to us. What are we going to do about it? Because the end goal is destruction. They're already succeeding. The world is already flipping and morphing into something wrong, something unnatural. The women are taking over in the universities and in the workplace. They're out earning men by 10% in the younger generations, which is only going to continue to go up. Women are having less children. Women run the marriages. They run the marriage courts. They will run the family courts. They have complete control. They make up the consumer market. You know, women's opinion is what matters. We're going to live in a world where women are the sole breadwinners, but they're going to constantly resent men for that, even though that's the world that they created. I don't like to be a pessimist, but it's just logically, I can't see the way out. I can't see the way forward, and I want to. I really, really want to see the way forward. I really want to see what can be done. And I think the answer is one that we all don't really want to say, and that I probably shouldn't say on here on YouTube. But unfortunately, we are these biological beings, and the only way that anything has ever worked in reality, not in an ideal world, is by force. Women are so clever. We really are, because we knew the effect that we had on men. We knew that men listened to us. We knew that they wanted to protect us. They wanted what was in our best interest. And we told them that what was in our best interest was to let us become like them. So they listened, because most of them are actually really good and they care for us and they want what's best for us and they want us to be happy and flourish. So when we told them this is what we wanted, they believed us. And the thing is that women are agreeable creatures. That's why you see these videos of these women from the 1970s and they're asked, what do you think about feminists? And the majority of them are saying, I don't want that, but, that's their prerogative. They can do what they want as long as it doesn't affect my life. Because most women aren't combative. They're not, they're not going to go out and fight. But because the feminists are like that, the men thought, well, these women are really passionate about it. So that must be how they all feel. And they ruined it for all of us. I guarantee you, if you ask most average women, they don't want to work, they don't enjoy it. They might say, oh, I don't mind, because that's how we are as women. We're not these, naturally, I know that social media has done a number, but naturally we're not these combative forces. We're naturally more agreeable than men. So if the status quo is that we have to work, we're gonna do it. And it's like everything's twisted now, because now the women are disagreeable and the men have kind of been emotionally battered into this, some of them literally, but battered into this women's agreeableness, complete compliance. And I know initially it was with goodwill, it was with good intentions. They wanted what was best for the women and they believed that this is what the women wanted. And it's just really interesting to me, speaking of battering, is that the whole idea of battered woman syndrome, I think the majority of men in 2025 are suffering from battered man syndrome, but just the battering has been, I know in some cases not, but in most cases societal emotional bashing of men. So as a society, I think men as a populace have battered women syndrome, battered man syndrome. And they're just kind of trapped in this constant cycle of gaslighting, being told this is normal, this is okay, this is normal. Because women have the positions of power now. I don't understand the way out. I really don't. And I want to find a way, which is why I'm making this video. Because I want a plan. I don't want to be the same as the modern day feminists. I want a plan. I want to know that any children I have in this world, I can tell them we have a view of a better future. Now, I know that there's spiritual things as well. And my spirituality, of course, I have hope. Of course, I know it's all going to be okay in the end. But practically for the world, flesh, objects, what's the plan here? Because we are physical and spiritual for a reason, right? If the whole reason is to just be purely spiritual, why do we have the physical? And I think that's what life is about. It's about finding the balance between the two. We can't abandon our bodies. We can't dissociate. We have to remain vigilant, present, physical and spiritual. Now, of course, I'm talking on a societal level here. Individually, everything we do is going to naturally have a domino effect. But just like these second wave feminists had a vision for rocking the system, and they had clear messages and goals that they were striving towards, and they knew how they were going to get there, I think we need something like that to combat it. And perhaps fighting the big is by fighting with small. Feminism was kind of pushed up, down. It started with the big messaging, and then it infiltrated into the family. So far as I can see, the only plan we have right now is destabilizing from the ground up by having these kind of conversations, and especially women with other women. And I often have these conversations with my friends, actually bringing back feminine values and actually teaching women how to respect their husbands and bringing back that patriarchal dynamic in the home. A great couple I look at for an example, because I always think it's worth having mentors, is Rachel and Andrew Wilson. They've really got that going. They've really got it working. As far as I'm aware, I'm not in their home, but just from what I can see, they do a pretty good job at it. And Rachel is like, you can't, you can hear the feminists going like, I don't want to be stuck in a home, I don't want to be uneducated. Rachel's one of the smartest people I've ever met. I spoke to her for a few times. She's helped me out a lot on this channel. Her book, Occult Feminism, which if you haven't checked out, you definitely should. She's incredibly smart, incredibly educated. But you know what she also is, which matters much more? An incredible mother. She's got 5 children. 5! In 2025. That's crazy. And she's only like 40 something, and all of her babies are no longer babies. And she's home with them all. Like that's admirable. That's admirable. That's the only thing that matters. It's children. Children are the only thing that matters, really. But because of the individual programming, I think it's very difficult for women to actually know what submission actually looks like, to actually let the man run and lead. It's very difficult. We've been programmed and indoctrinated for so long now, for decades, and from such a young age. It's going to be difficult. The road's going to be tough, but it is possible. I genuinely believe it's possible. Genuinely. I just think it's tough. And with that, I think the onus is on women, such as myself, to figure out what's the difference between me and a raging feminist. Same age, same race, same kind of upbringing. Why did I go one way and she go the other? Because I knew about feminist stuff, at school you're told you can do anything a man can do, and you have this kind of programming and stuff. But then there comes a point when you become an adult, and so far as I can see, you either embrace the status quo or you reject it. And I think the onus is on women like myself to figure out, why didn't they reject it? Because I know why I did, right? And the women like me who reject it know why we did, because it makes sense to us. So we are the aware ones in this. We are responsible for these other women, because typically the man would be responsible for the women, right? And they wouldn't let their women go that other way, because they would have their best interests, and they would know that that's a bad direction for you to go in. But women won't listen to men anymore, but they will listen to other women. If enough women approve that this woman is someone who can be listened to. That's why I'm so lucky to have my friends, is because we all have similar kind of thoughts. So we all have that female trust from each other. But with these feminist type women, they might listen to other women. So the onus is on us aware women to figure out how they got to where they got to, so we can follow the breadcrumb trail, find them in the woods, in the forest of delusion that they're in, and pull them out. Because you see it all the time. You see a lot of women turning away from feminism. It happens. It can happen. You've just got to infiltrate. Because it's like herd mentality. It's that follow, go along with everything, which is natural for females. It's natural. You can't, crap on them for that. Because it is natural. And it's a good thing that they're like that, because it's kept us alive, right? But obviously it can be exploited, and that's what feminism has done. It's exploited that feminine nature. So one thing I'm going to be doing on the channel now, that I've been thinking about it, is I'm going to be doing case studies. I don't know if you guys are going to be interested in this. If you think, it's not interesting, maybe I won't do it and I'll just kind of keep it private. But I think it could be quite interesting. Obviously, let me know. It's you guys that run the channel. It's you guys that donate and support and everything. So, it's what you want to see at the end of the day. But I think it'd be interesting to do case studies, and I personally believe that social media is what's keeping all of this rife and alive. I think social media runs our politics. I think social media has become the court of public opinion. I think it runs everything. So I have been kind of following now people on social media who I know, a lot of people follow, who I remember from school, girls talking about in school, this girl. I've recently come across the, spoiled princess, spoiled girlies kind of influencers, which is the Wizard Liz's of the world. So I know, obviously, I recently discovered that Wizard Liz lady has got 8 million subscribers. That's a lot of women, young women, who are in this echo chamber. So, okay, we start to infiltrate that. Another one I know is a lady on Instagram. Her name is, I don't know if it's Kiara or Chira King. She's British, I believe, as well. She's huge, absolutely huge, and just an influencer. Because we know, you've got the promiscuous OnlyFans influencers out there, but realistically, the majority of their followers are men. So it's who are the women actually listening to? So find out the messaging that's going on there, and then, yeah, I can't really figure out a plan yet, because you have to be able to understand how someone got to where they got to first in order to be able to find them, to even have a conversation with them, right? Because if you are on the outside of the forest shouting in, "You're an idiot for getting lost in there. I didn't get lost in there. I just didn't go in." That's not productive. Do you know what I mean? So I need to also get lost in there with my shield of, everything I already know, with my torch into the dark forest, and find them and see, how did they get lost in here? Because at least then, we're women, I can come at it from an empathetic angle of, I can see how you got here. And I can be a bit more productive in my conversation with trying to convince them, it's dark in here, it's cold, you can come out. There's men waiting with blankets. You're going to be okay. I know it's like a bit like, oh, you know, but it's like we're women, okay? I'm trying to paint a picture here. Hopefully if any of you have like close female friends or, you know, close relationships with your mothers, sisters, you kind of know what I'm talking about. If not, I'm sorry, it's just going to sound all completely ridiculous. But that's what I think. Do you think that would be worth me doing on the channel? Like, would you guys want to see that? Would you want to hear my thoughts? But these are just my thoughts of today. I'm going to be making more videos like this, just kind of exploring my thoughts, because I want to hear you guys' feedback. I want new ideas. I want to be able to think deeper about this, because I want to start doing more proactive things. But I need to mind map. I need to really have a plan, because those feminists had a plan and it worked. It's still working. It's all working. Everything. Go and watch that short. Go to shorts, filter, change it from latest to popular, and it's one of the top ones where I'm talking about the National Organization for Women on the pregame podcast. Go check it out. Everything they set out to do, they have done. They did it. They did it. And go look into Margaret Sanger. Go look at how Planned Parenthood came about, and then go and look at the abortion statistics. Go and look at what's happening in the world. Like I said, here in the UK, it's now legal to be assisted in dying, and abortion is legal up till birth. They had a plan. They knew how they were going to get there, and it succeeded. And I say enough is enough. I don't want to see men get walked over like this anymore. I'm sick of it. So we need to come up with a counter plan. There is my favorite movie ever, in case you can't tell from that little poster up there, is Interstellar. I know, such cliche. Everyone loves that film. But believe me, when it first came out, not everyone loved that film. So I was not this like basic. Anyway, there is a poem in that movie that I thoroughly enjoy. And it is a poem by Dylan Thomas. And I'm going to read it to you guys. I feel it's important to this video to really convey what it is that I'm trying to get across. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lighting, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright, their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death, who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there, on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And that is my attitude towards feminism's goal, which is the destruction of humanity through the any means possible degradation of men and women and the humiliation of men. And stripping men of their masculinity. It's a death of sorts. Eventually, it's the death of all of us, because it will be the end of humanity, because there'll be no more reproduction, right? But this is how I feel. We all have to die. Bad things happen. And you can surrender, and perhaps that's the easier option. But I see masculinity as a light. I saw, the patriarchal hierarchy ideal model as light. I think it's a wonderful gesture for men to want to take care of women and preserve them and have them sheltered, and I think that's all good. I think we need men, so I think it's the light. I really think it is, and I'm going to rage against the dying of that. I'll leave it there for today. That's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, if you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up on your way out. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all of my content. And if you would like to send me over a video, you can send me over a video to react to on my Instagram or X. The links are in the description. Or you can send me an email. I think the link is in my YouTube description. If you'd like to consider donating to the channel, then you can do that by clicking the link in the description at buymeacoffee.com, or you can become a member right here on YouTube. As for the memberships, I am starting to post member videos. I am going to be getting a bit more complex over there and doing a bit more for you guys. So if you have any suggestions for that, obviously join the members community and let's talk about it. But on that note, I'll leave it there for today. I'll see you very soon in the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.